What's going on, guys? I'm Drew Kirby. It's almost August, which means it's almost time for the Redbull Tennessee Knockout. Today, I'm joined by co-creator of the Tennessee Knockout, Sean Finley and Will Preston. What's going on, guys?
Just cranking up. It seems like we've been working really hard on TKO for months, and now all of a sudden it's right on top of us, and there's a lot still left to be done.
Well, I was excited. It's always fun to get an email from you guys that says the pre-qualified riders, and I've been waiting on that list. So it came out today that showed everyone that's into TKO 2 on Saturday and those guys that are eligible to go straight to Sunday.
Yeah, it's a little different format this year for the amateur thing, just because it's the event is part of the US AMA US Hard Enduro Championship. And that makes it a little easier because we're just taking top 10 from the various classes, go straight there. In the past, we did a thing where if you were top 10 at some of those regional events, you could get in. But honestly, it was super painful to try to organize and coordinate. Yeah, a lot easier now to just say, hey, you're top 10 in the points in these various classes. We don't take the C riders because we don't want to award sandbaggers, and we don't take some of the youth riders. There's a few C riders that were up there pretty far last year, and I kind of feel like those guys should get to ride in the
move up.
Exactly, move up, and if you can qualify, then you legitimately can make race 2.
Well, so right off the top, we'll just tear the one Band-Aid off that I don't know if people know about or not, but if you want to go straight to Sunday, you can sign up if you sign up in the pro class and be straight to Sunday, not have to ride Saturday, correct?
That is correct. First time we've done that, even though this is the 14th year of doing the event. We will still have the riders that are truly pre-qualified pros, those FIM Hard Enduro guys, top, Hard Enduro racers. And then we also invite some of the top, riders off-road from other off-road series, even GNCC guys and all that. We don't get a ton of those guys anymore, but it's kind of a cool thing to invite some of those guys. And that's kind of how like Jordan Ashburn got into it many years ago and stuck with it, off and on over the years. Guys like Ben Kelly, that's where he came from originally and came and did TKO. In fact, I think it actually helped put him on the map with the
pretty well that
ATM
year.
Guys. Yeah, I think he ended up 4th, I believe, after riding Saturday even.
So he rode it. That was back when he had to ride everything on Saturday too. He overall Saturday and 4th on Sunday. It was impressive.
Yeah. So there's but yeah, we will still have that program where we end up with about 30, 35 guys usually that are truly pre-qualified. And where it was always become kind of painful the last few years is that there's guys that were riding the pro class that for various reasons, whether it's an injury or whatever, or maybe they just weren't in that top 10, we're not getting that invite, having to ride on Saturday, but then they're racing pro at other races. And so to make it a little easier, honestly on us a little bit for all those guys bugging us about it, we just said, okay, you want to pay your entry fee. You don't get a free entry like some of the other ones that are pre-qualified, but you can sign up. Last I looked, I think we had 10 guys entered in there. So yeah, handful of guys will join that other top 30, and as well as the top 30 amateurs that will get the opportunity to qualify like we've done in the past as well.
Well, and one thing I want to mention is talking to Matt Musgrove and the guys from the US Hard Enduro series. You sign up through Moto Tally, which is how you sign up for all their races. They don't want you jumping classes. So if you've been racing the 30A class or the A class, they don't want you jumping to pro just to get through to Sunday because it'll mess kind of with points and everything.
Yeah, and that also, though, where it was a little clunky if we didn't do what we decided to do, where we added that ability to enter pro. Like I said, some of these guys are riding pro, and if we were to ask them to kick back to the A class here, we'd have some riders unhappy about that, So we decided, you know what, let those guys go ahead and enter if they want to dive right into the deep end and go right into the harder course and all that, then they can do that.
And what I told Drew is also, if you've got the guys that are pros already moving on to the pro day, it gives the true amateurs, the guys like me and Drew or, whoever, a shot at making that top 30, and you're not getting kicked by somebody that really ought to be in,
Yeah, and we had a few of those each year. That's what happened. We'd have, and one other little thing we added this year after talking to a few riders, sometimes people have been injured, or like I know that's the case for you, Drew, but this isn't a case for you to make the pro. But we also for the Saturday race 2 thing, where we'd have guys, sometimes like a top GNCC guy will show up, I know Chase Landers actually showed up a few years ago, set like a very fast time, but still had to ride Saturday because we didn't have a way for him to qualify right to race 2. So something we added this year that just kind of, like I said, feedback from riders and all that is that if you're not one of those pre-qualified by being top 10 in the US Hard Enduro Championship and you're still in an A or, a B rider or whatever, but if you finish top 50 on the Friday hot lap, you'll then be eligible also to go straight to race 2. And again, it's for guys like that, guys that have been injured that are really, they should be in that race 2 anyway, or a top GNCC or a top enduro guy, something like that, who hasn't raced US Hard Enduros.
I know this is getting into the weeds, but how are you starting the second race on Saturday with the guys that are pre-qualified versus the guys that aren't pre-qualified?
It'll be based on the hot lap time. So anybody that's pre-qualified, or if one of those guys that ends up being in the top 50, so say some guy that's not already in there gets 10th, he'll be starting 10th because he's now earned his way in. He'll be, starting in that group based on whatever their hot lap time is. Any of those riders then that are not pre-qualified or not, you can also be pre-qualified by being top 50 from last year. I think, Will, you're on that list. You're actually on it in multiple ways, but yeah, there's several people that are that way where they've top 50 last year, as well as maybe in, top 10 in the class in the US Hard Enduro Championship. All those various things get you in. But if there's riders that are not in there, they don't get in top 50 on Friday, they race Saturday, race 1, ends up being usually 200-300 guys in there, guys and girls in there. Top 200 of those riders are the ones who go into race 2, but they start behind all those ones that are already pre-qualified.
So the guy that wins race 1, he'll start first, but behind all the pre-qualified guys.
Correct.
Okay, I know one year y'all did it where all the race 1 people, like the top 10, you started one per row.
We were trying to figure out where to put them in there.
Yeah,
and honestly, got so confusing. So we just so we ended up going, okay, they haven't. That was what one of the things we solved a little bit by doing that top 50 on the Friday, because then if it's a really good legit rider, they're going to get into race 2 directly now.
Yeah.
If they have a bad hot lap, they won't. But if they get in a good time, they'll still get in there.
Well, I appreciate you doing it the way you did it, because Chase Landers, he won that morning race, but he had to start behind us all, and that was the year that I overalled it. So he was the only one. I was real worried about him, but luckily he had to fight through so many people. It helped me out. So
I got clunky to try to do that. But it's one of the things with when we started doing that Friday hot lap, 5-6 years ago, whatever now. So really the goal is to try to reduce the number of bottlenecks out there, let the fastest guys start in the front. All of our races, other than the pro main on Sunday, which we're down to only 20 guys at that point, all of our races, though, are single lap. We really try to avoid the bottleneck situations. You're going to get it no matter what as you get deeper into the field. And that Saturday morning one will certainly get it even deeper into the field on the Saturday afternoon race. And one of our other goals this year is actually to make that race 2 on Saturday more difficult and basically making it longer in time, but not necessarily longer in mileage, just harder. Our goal would be where somebody can't win that thing in under an hour and a half, and we've had it closer to an hour a few times. So
I think mine was 48 minutes the year I did it, because it was dry, and that's what Will and I rode today. And we had a
if this is wet as it was today, it's you can't ride.
We've actually had several. We've had several years of dry weather. We haven't had to do reroutes or anything. We always are building the course where if this hill is going to be unclimbable and we need an alternate route sometimes. And we've not had to do that in several years now. So, maybe this will be the year we get it again and it becomes crazy hard, because it just makes such a difference, as you guys know, living there, it takes that hour-long loop and turns it into an hour and a half plus for sure for even the best guys.
No doubt. All right. So since we've talked about a lot of stuff way down the list, the first thing I was going to talk about is we're back to an FIM World Round. Who's coming? Who have you heard from, Sean? I know you and I discussed a few people offline. What do you got on the list?
I actually pulled up the list because I thought you'd ask. Manny had a knee injury and missed one FIM Hard Enduro event, but he's already racing again in Romania. Day 2 already through over there. I know he had a good day 1. He's still leading overall, so he's back. He actually reached out to Eric last week or the week before, and said, "Hey, I'm good. I'm going to be riding. Plan to be there." Tristan Hart, who's won the last 2 and 3 of the last 4. Obviously, he's really good, at that venue. He's going to be back. I think you can't count out Cody Webb the way he's riding this year. It's the best year he's had in several, probably since he was on his 6 years of consecutive TKO wins. I'd say this year is probably his best year he's had in a long time. So I'm looking forward to seeing him battle with those guys. I know he banged himself up a little bit in June by going to Erzberg, but hopefully he's got enough time to recover and be back. Wade Young, who, going into Romania is leading the FIM championship, is coming. Mario Ramon, Teodor, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but Teo Bier. He won day 2 at Romania.
Yeah, he had a good day.
Won day 2. So
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, so we'll have basically those top 10 current FIM guys, 10, 12, 15 maybe, Matthew Green and a few of the other guys that are in there as well.
Did you say Johnny Walker?
Walker is not currently confirmed to come over. I know a few of his sponsors have reached out and asked about it. As of now, he's not currently confirmed. But Gomez, a few of the other guys from that side, and then of course all the, we'll have the top 20 plus, probably US Hard Enduro guys. Graham Jarvis has reached out. In fact, he's asked for an RV spot and says he's coming.
Awesome.
So
I saw that he's got a rib injury. He's broken some ribs, so he didn't do the prologue at Romaniacs, but then came through on day 1 and 6th overall.
I know, isn't that crazy? I mean, the guy's still amazing, like 49 years old or whatever. I mean, I know he's not a huge fan of the TKO format. It's a little high intensity for him, but he'd be the guy that if it rains, especially, he'd start to shine. But yeah, he's like I said, he's reached out and asked for through Larry actually that runs the TTC. He reached out to him and asked for an RV spot. Says he's coming. I actually heard from a couple other people that work with him, said he was coming. So yeah, it sounds like we'll have Graham Jarvis again back, which will be super cool.
All right, can we reach out to Larry and get an RV spot? Is that all it takes?
That was my first thought.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same
thing. You don't want to reach out to me because I have no power on that.
Yeah.
Come on, Sean, help us out.
All right, so I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it, but I saw in the press release you sent out that Thursday night back to Nashville for the street race. Is that we allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't think Red Bull's done their quote official, green light announcement, but they did give us the okay to talk about it. We've been mentioning it. And that will be, I know I've already had people asking me, how do I get in, this and that. I mean, the way it'll be top 16 riders by invite only. With probably 2 alternates. We need 16 to make our bracket.
If you have to ask, you probably didn't get invited.
Yeah, honestly, you never know. I mean, if you're currently, top 5 to 10 in the US Championship, there's a good chance you could be one of them.
Right.
We also, the way we kind of like set up that invite list we do for the pros, we take in consideration, FIM World Championship, AMA US Hard Enduro Championship. We take Enduro Cross. We take FIM Super Enduro. We take all those things. We actually put like a ranking thing. We have this kind of complicated spreadsheet. With that, we kind of put them in there. That's actually how we start their hot lap in that order. So we also weight last year's TKO. That gets like heavy points as well. So like Tristan, who won the Enduro Cross Championship, was both FIM and US Hard Enduro, series last year. Like he comes in with the highest seed because of the accumulation of points. But we'll basically take that list and take 16 riders. It's a Red Bull show though, so they've actually thrown out a few names of a few people that they'd like to invite as well. Could put a few oddballs in there. Nobody that we can drop, but
I know there's a gas rider that got invited, and I don't know if he's coming to either TKO or the straight rhythm, but he said he was thinking about the straight rhythm.
Yeah, so we'll see. I can't really say for sure who that list is. We've kind of started sharing it with some of the riders and teams to verify who's in, and then I mean, really what'll end up happening at the end, if we like what happened 2 years ago anyway, a few of the FIM guys, like I remember Teo actually was renting a bike at the time. His bike didn't show up in time. He was unable to come do it. So there was another slot for one of the US guys. So yeah, we'll we'll kind of have that list ready to go. We'll give some guys some heads up as we get closer here in the next week, and then we'll be ready to pull some names in as we get closer. But there's some good riders. I mean, guys like Cooper Abbott, who's a top enduro cross rider. Of course, he's reached out. He's a guy that probably should be on that list. There's a lot of good riders that should be there. I mean, you've seen like at Silver King's event, Colton's hard to beat at an event like that. He's not the best guy at the hard enduros anymore, even though he probably could be. I don't think he puts his heart into it, honestly. But he throws it down hard for everything he's worth when it's down to that. So I mean, I'm actually looking forward to seeing guys like him go out there and try. If
there was a crowd on 100% of the track, Colton would dominate.
Exactly.
He's made that comment before that no one can see me out there. So, but he gives it his all. I couldn't believe Ryder beat him at the Silver Kings prologue or street race they had.
Yeah. I mean, you got lots of these young guys that are getting really good at the indoor stuff too. So I mean, that's it. Like I said, it's a show. It's definitely to pump up the whole event and all that. So looking forward to having that back again, though. It's obviously pretty huge. It's a major project for Red Bull to pull that off. They have a regional office there in Nashville. They've been working on it for over a year to get all the necessary permits and things like that. We did it 2 years ago. Last year, they had a bunch of budget that went to another project. I can't remember. I think it was an F1 demo or something like that they had to do. So they couldn't afford to do it last year, but very cool to have it back again this year.
How does the city of Nashville, like, are the officials there, do they think it's cool? Do they know about it? I mean,
honestly, I don't know, because I haven't had to deal with that. I know it's the people there in that Red Bull office that actually
I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, I think it probably helps, honestly, that they have an office there in town. I mean, they actually have a regional office in downtown Nashville, so that probably helps. They have a local presence, there. And they pulled it off 2 years ago. There's I think that's actually the little bit of the hang up now, is getting a few little details wound up. I mean, there's security, there's closing the street. I mean, there's all those things. That's part of the reason it's Thursday night as well. Honestly, Friday might
weekend.
Yeah, the Friday, Saturday is just impossible. So, and probably it's better for us to do it on Thursday as well, because even though those top 16 guys don't ride till Saturday afternoon, it's a lot going on. They want to come out and walk the course and all that stuff. So
a lot of the spectators come from Sequatchie to Nashville to enjoy it. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
We're still working on that AHE shuttle bus. You trying to get me a sponsor, because Red Bull was talking about getting something for us, and now we're scrambling trying to see if we can get a ride up there. But the street race, is it got any points, any value, any starting order? Is it just like you said, just for a show?
It's a show, and like in Romania and a few of the other FIM Hard Enduro championships, they actually count it as it gets a few points and all that. Mm-hmm. Because it's on Thursday, and because some of the riders travel things and privateers and all that, they did not make it part of it this year, so it's not officially part of it. The other thing, if you do that, you have to let like all of the pros in. Now we're talking about, we'd be talking about like basically 60 guys, but with our format where we qualify guys in, where do you put them? You would at least have to have every one of the FIM Hard Enduro guys eligible to compete, which then would take like 12 guys probably. And really, we wanted to kind of do more of a show where it's, roughly 50-50 of, the FIM World Championship guys and US guys.
Okay. Well, and I heard Matty Green, I think somebody's looking for a bike for him, or he's looking for a bike. So
I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, somebody told me that. So
Drew, you got a bike right there.
Yeah, there's pieces of bikes everywhere.
It's ready.
All right. So anything else about the Nashville straight rhythm or street race? I know I looked, you guys have the schedule. If you go to Tennessee Knockout Enduro.com, all the information's there. I was going to ask you a bunch of times, and then I found them all printed. I printed it out. So it's from 3 to 10 on Thursday, correct?
Yeah. And basically that afternoon will be like a practice / qualifying. That's where we'll grid the guys into 1 through 16. If we're, like I said, we'll probably have a couple alternates. What we did a few years ago, actually, we brought like 4 alternates and let them battle for the last 2 spots. We may do something like that again. It was kind of cool way to like let those last 4 guys, instead of 2 guys sitting there like knowing they're not riding, we let those 4 guys actually all put in a time, and the top 2 of those were in the top 16. Of course, if you're one of those last guys at the bottom of the list, you're going up against one of the top guys, of course. But yeah.
Well, and so it is bracket format again.
It is. It's bracket format. So one race is 16, two races 15 on down the list after that afternoon qualifying time, and then then it'll roughly be like a 7 to 10 probably time frame for the true head-to-head racing time.
Okay. All right. So, Will, you got anything else for the Thursday night show?
No, I mean, last time I know the homeless crowd loved it. The sightseeing was really good. So if you're thinking about going, the people watching, if you're thinking about going, go. It's a spectacle. For our sport to get that much attention in the U.S. is super cool. I mean, it's what we
have to
say
about. Definitely thank you to Red Bull for making that happen, because it's cool. It's definitely a great way to showcase it.
Any word on bleachers? The one they did in downtown Page when they did that one for Grinding Stone. They had bleachers along the whole one side, because that was our biggest problem. Is we tried to get on the rooftop, we couldn't see. It was kind of all street level. You couldn't see much.
I'm not sure on that one, honestly. I know it was brought up from after 2 years ago and discussed, but I'm not sure where the final plan is on that.
Okay. All right. So on to the stuff that matters to us guys that won't be in downtown Nashville except spectating. So Friday, the amateur prologue here on the schedule. I think it's 2 to 6, or the amateur hot lap, I guess it's called.
Yep.
So course direction, course changes. Can't talk. I assume it'll be kind of on the short course, a modified version of the short course.
Yeah, we change that short course every year. It's sort of in the same regions usually. I mean, we went several years over behind the green building and the cabin side. It was pretty much exclusively over there. Then we've done now a few years where it was more on the opposite side, kind of going over up that creek and into the Red Bull Ravine area. Then last year we kind of merged both of them.
Yep.
This year, what'll be a little different is we're going both the long course and the short course. We'll leave the start-finish area, go through the grass track first, rather than going the opposite way. So it'll go through the grass track first. But then we've created a new shortcut going out of the grass track that goes directly into the Red Bull Ravine. So you won't go through the whole grass track over into that creek, which I know a few years ago we went up and down it like 1,000 times with some of you guys. So it'll get you straight over to that Red Bull Ravine type area. Because we'll get there quickly, we'll use more stuff over on that side of the property for the short course. It'll still be a mile to 2 miles max, probably closer to 2 for the pro, short course, and maybe 1.5 miles for the amateur short course. But yeah, that's what will be used for that hot lap on Friday afternoon. And again, that's for every amateur, regardless of whether you're pre-qualified or not. You ride that hot lap. If you're one of the pre-qualified riders, you're going straight to race 2. The women's pro goes straight to race 2 as well. They legitimately, as you've seen in the past, qualify usually anyway, even if they weren't, to go straight there. So we just put them straight in. And then if you're not one of those riders, that are trying to get in, still, if you got a top 50, you could get, you could earn a spot to race 2. If not, you still want a good starting spot for that next race, Saturday morning race, which gives you a lot better chance to get a good result there.
You got a cat behind the blinds over there. What's going on?
Actually, my window's open. I've been closing it.
It did it a couple times that I was like, man, has he got something going on back there?
No, what it is I live here in Prescott, Arizona, and we get these afternoon monsoons. It's actually awesome right now because it rains, about every other day, if not every day sometimes. And we get wet trails for the next few days. So good for mountain biking, good for riding right out of my house here.
Is it cool enough to have your window open, I presume?
Oh yeah, like I think today's 90-ish, so it's nice out. So it's not like humid. It's not humid like you guys.
Oh, okay.
It's a dry.
I was just thinking. I was like, oh gosh, yeah.
No, I just like fresh air. I like the fresh air flow, actually.
All right. Well, so then I think we've gotten through the only question I had is for those people that might not make it down on Friday. They can still race. They're just going to be started behind everyone who does.
Correct. If they were one of those riders that was pre-qualified all the way to race 2 anyway, they would just start behind anybody that did a qualifying lap based on when they've entered. So there's like a clock time on when you entered. So, if there's, say 100 guys actually, guys and girls did a hot lap and you didn't, and you're the first next guy entered, that's where you're going to start. You're likely going to get a pretty clean track still already if you're race 2. Race 1, it'd be a big disadvantage. But you can do that if you're one of those guys or girls that's coming to race, and if you can't make it for whatever reason, you'll still start. You just will start behind anybody that's done a hot lap in the morning. No, that Saturday morning race.
Okay, so, and I think also we haven't even talked about the E-Moto class. They're doing the prologue hot lap, the amateur hot lap as well, correct?
Correct. It's pretty similar. E-Moto's back, similar to last year's format in that they'll ride a hot lap to get their starting position amongst themselves. What we did last year, we're doing the same thing again this year, is on Saturday morning, they'll do a qualifying race. They'll start at 8:30 on Saturday morning ahead of the amateurs. Last year we had 38 of them total that took off. They will do their qualifying race. The top 15 riders this year, last year was top 10. This year will be top 15. We'll move to Sunday morning's race. Opposite there, which they'll start behind, which would be about 60 pros, counting those pre-qualified riders, plus the 30 who make it through from Saturday's amateur program. So, it'll probably be 65-ish riders. They'll start behind those riders on the more difficult course, top 15 electric bikes, and that's their championship deciding race there. Another kind of cool thing.
They don't race the second race on Saturday, just Saturday morning and straight to Sunday.
Correct. And only top 15 move on. We did it last year too. We'll do the 4 guys who just missed it on the electric bikes, and we'll do the same thing with amateurs again too, or we'll do like top 4 in each. We'll get like an LCQ on the the straight rhythm thing there at the TTC. We'll do a little straight rhythm, runoff where one more electric bike, so a 16th electric bike will go in, and a 31st amateur will go through to the pro competition, which actually starts pro hot lap is Saturday afternoon after all the other Saturday activities.
How many electric bikes do you have signed up at this point?
20 something, I think it was last I saw. I think we're about 20-ish. I kind of think, based on the pace and a few guys I know that have reached out, I think we'll be at or above where we were last year. So probably 40-ish, I would think. Wally Palmer actually reached out.
Oh,
Wally Palmer has a Stark apparently.
I've seen some Instagram stories of it. Yep.
He says he's coming to race. And Spencer Wilton, who actually won the E-Moto class last year, is actually doing it again. He's actually signed up. He has a Stark this year. Last year he did it on electric motion. He's going to do it on the Stark. I know of at least one very good rider that's very likely riding. I can't say yet because he hasn't committed, but a couple of others.
Instagram story on a Stark like 2 days ago or yesterday?
Not sure. That wasn't a Stark, actually, so it was somebody else.
Oh, okay. Well, Josh Toth posted he was on a Stark in his backyard, and so I was wondering. Cool. So it would be cool if he'd show up.
He could win anything. So I mean,
I was wondering he said he was coming.
He is pre-qualified to ride the pro. He has raced it in the past. Back when he was riding for KTM, he's raced it a few times.
He's got a top 5, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if he was that high, but he maybe back then. I know he won like tough like Roar way back in the day.
Yeah, he did.
It was stupidly hard, and before everybody was doing this. But he's obviously got some talent. My guess is I haven't reached out to him directly, but I was just thinking, gosh, he's leading the National Enduro Championship right now. I mean, if I were him, I wouldn't be messing around doing anything else. I mean, if you can win a championship,
that's not going to stop Ashburn though.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't think Ashburn's coming from what I heard.
Oh, man. I hate to hear that.
Yeah,
he won the GNCC championship last year in race TKO, didn't he?
2 years ago.
He did win it. I think he did win
the
championship the year he won it, right? The year he won the championship, I think he did race TKO. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. But he didn't race the final because of bike trouble.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I actually did reach out to Jordan. He said he probably was not racing because he said it takes a lot out of him, and there is a GNCC the following weekend. So
I get that.
We'll see.
I don't know who pushed this race back a week. I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually part of what dictated the week it's on is actually the Thursday night that was available for Nashville.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we were between one of those 2 weekends, and then when for whatever reason the weekend a week later was available.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So the only other Saturday question I had was the women's race and the women's final. Is it going to be Saturday afternoon as in the past?
Yeah, so it's actually it's not a separate race though. The last couple of years we've done it where the pro women race 2 and that's their race. They actually ride a hot lap they start wherever they earn their spot amongst everybody else. So like if I know they were in the top 30-ish last year. Rachel Gudish and Kristen
Shelby.
Langman. Kristen.
Oh yeah,
Kristen
was there.
Year. Yeah, and she, both of them, I know were like top 30-ish or around 30 overall for race 2 riders. So that will again be their championship race wherever they finish amongst each other. Decides their championship race for the women. There is an amateur women's race that will race Saturday morning. Last year there was 5 entries, I think. None of them actually completed a lap. So it's even that course is pretty challenging. I know we had at least 3 women in the pro class that finished even in the pro, on the harder ones on the race 2. But yeah.
So since Moto Tally, which is US Hard Enduro scoring systems doing it, any thoughts to putting a checkpoint out there or 2?
We do plan on doing checkpoints this year, actually. Okay.
Oh,
yep. Something we have not
like
done
you said, those women that didn't finish.
Exactly. That's exactly. We plan to do at least one, if not multiple, to where at least at the halfway point, which is actually very easy to do because it's usually right there. That uphill swamp type area is usually roughly halfway. But there's a couple other places that we'll probably do more than one, actually. So that'll give us, give people a chance to get a time in. If like for those amateur riders that don't even make it through, it will give them, a relative time to the others to at least those checkpoints.
No, I think that's great because that's a lot of people's big complaint. If you don't even get scored against your buddies or against whoever, it's at least something to brag about next year.
Well, that'll help the youth class as well to let those guys know where they stand amongst
the women, some of those other classes,
C classes as well.
Yeah, you're right. Your C class riders you're talking about.
a couple of them will make it to race 2 somehow.
Yeah,
they'll make it to Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I think there was one that did it last year.
I wouldn't be surprised. The only other question about Saturday now that I keep thinking of more, course direction. We are counterclockwise?
Yeah, clockwise, actually. So we'll go right into as you go down the start straight,
you're right.
Into the grass track to the right. It'll go around the property that way then.
Uphill swamp.
Yes.
Correct?
Probably uphill swamp up, correct.
Okay. That's always the game changer if it's wet.
Yep.
It's one of them.
Even if it's dry, it's a game changer.
I borrowed a Sherco a few years ago and went and rode the loop. Actually, Eric and I did, and it was a slimy morning, and I actually did some damage trying to make it up that thing. It was stock tires, no mooses. I mean, it wasn't. I didn't have anything in my favor. It was a 4-stroke. It was not.
Oh, the excuses are getting long now.
That's
long.
Worse than that is I traded bikes with Eric and gave him the 4-stroke to take back all banged up, and I rode the 2-stroke and completed the rest of the lap. He got to go bring it back, and it was say that tried to claim that it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so Saturday that covers it. Goals top 30 to make it straight to Sunday. Then I guess would you guys do the gold, silver, bronze medals?
Similar kind of program where I can't remember exactly. It's actually in those supplemental rules that are on the site. I believe it's if you get a gold if you're top. I don't know. I can't remember what it is.
It's usually 50.
Yeah, maybe it's the top 50, and then anybody that finishes race 2 gets a silver, and then anybody that completes the loop otherwise, I think gets a bronze. So similar program that we've done for several years there. And then, there's because we're part of the US Hard Enduro Championship, we're using all the exact same classes. So that means we have a few more classes than we've had, in the past, a few more vet classes, things like that. There's all those classes will be recognized as well. One other cool thing actually that I just thought of on the E-Moto class, something that Saron actually threw out as an idea. Some of these guys just mod, especially when it was the light B, the little smaller Saron a few years ago before the Ultra B that's a little more capable came out. A lot of guys put a ton of money into these things and mod them out, and they wanted to basically make it to where you could encourage some riders to ride a stock bike, a stockish bike, meaning you could put wheels and tires, but otherwise stock Saron and be eligible for $500 cash reward if you're the first of their light Bs.
Cool.
You're the first of the Ultra B's a $500 reward, and they have the Storm B, which is their bigger, full-size bike. Same thing for that. If you're the first finisher on one of those bikes, if you're eligible for the stock ones, meaning it's like a stock frame motor chassis. You can, like I say, you can swap
Suspension.
out wheels and tires. Yeah, it needs to be like a stockish bike. But the idea is to get it to where, you know, you can buy a $4,500 light B, throw some wheels and tires, or even just tires on it. You know, you can throw a tire even on that stock 19-inch wheel. I've actually done it. I've ridden that whole amateur course on a light B multiple times actually over the last few years. And it's super fun, and get a few of your buddies together, and, you know, you don't have to have a crazy expensive bike to compete. And so, and then one other cool thing that Suron's going to throw in on there is you're going to take anybody that finishes on a Suron, and you're in those stock classes and whatever, even a mod one, they're going to recognize you as a finisher. But anybody of those finishers on a Suron are going to get their name thrown in a hat, one name pulled, and one person will win one of those light Bs, the $4,500, you know, the small, cheaper bike. But those things are super cool, fun to ride, fun to race, and fun little pit bikes. So,
my son wants one so bad.
There you go. You got to ride an electric bike now.
Yeah, got to get him entered. Oh man. All right. Well, I said Saturday was over, but I forgot the Pro Hot Lap is Saturday afternoon. So, and you guys had done that to try to clean up and give a little more time on Sunday, right?
Yeah, that was kind of the goal. We started doing that. I can't remember if it was just last year, the first time we did it, or 2 years ago.
I think so.
Last year.
Yeah, I think it was last year. And especially this year, we won't have, like last year, we did have a pro, you know, the head-to-head, you know, what we're doing in Nashville. Basically, we did that, you know, with those guys on Saturday afternoon because we weren't doing it in Nashville on Thursday. So we won't have that. But what's kind of cool then is we get through all the amateur stuff. Those 30 guys that make it, yeah, some of them are kind of smoked and they got to go try to put in a time. But really, I mean, I think most of those guys are going to just put in a time and they're going to be starting to wear the back anyway against those top guys anyway. But it's kind of a cool way to end the day. Plus, it buys us about an hour in the morning that we don't have to try to line up 60 guys to get out there and do that hot lap. And then we can start immediately. We have 3 rounds of racing instead of 4 then on Sunday. So, yeah, it shortened up our schedule a little bit on Sunday to get people out of there because, you know, most people are driving from a long ways away and get them on the road about an hour sooner than we could have. So yeah, that's part of it. And the pro riders actually were all in favor when we reached out to them last year to ask about it. The teams and riders, everybody was like, yeah, they're itchy to ride by then, you know, like they want to get out there. Then they can kind of sleep on it. You know, do I need to change my bike? I think the mechanics appreciate it too, because they can re-prep the bike for that, you know, first round on Sunday then. Well,
yeah, because it's showing the award ceremony at 3:30 on Sunday. So that'd be nice. Get it wrapped up and out of there.
Yep.
All right, so Sunday coming around, any big course changes? You know, there's, like you said, Red Bull Ravine. Traditionally, we've been going up. I guess that's not even in the race, the hill. Or maybe it was.
It ends up getting used. We try to use it for every loop. Even the amateurs, we try to at least run through if it's not going up the hill. Yeah. Just because a lot of people like to use that area for spectating. So I think we'll use a little more of that area. At least that's the plan from the pre-scouting that we've done. You know, Josh actually helps us with the course. We've already talked with, you know, Eric's been out there and scouted a bit. And, you know, we've talked about trying to use more of that little zone there up that creek. And we used it quite a bit of it 2 years ago, but we want to maybe go create another hill or two, even in that same region, which is pretty tough. Last year we had that side hill we put in for the second pro loop that was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, we were announcing right there. It was a good show, and it was a great spectacle to see those guys up there on that.
I loved it actually. I went over and watched that. It was super cool too. That was like one of the few places I got to go watch that day, and it was awesome to see that. So yeah, we're looking at like trying to utilize that zone a little bit more because we get a lot of people who like to go out and watch in that area. So that means that, you know, we'll try to use a little bit more of it during those longer loops coming through that zone. But then also that hot lap and then the final where they're doing laps around it, we'll probably do a little bit more in that region.
Okay. All right. So I guess that's it. I mean, the main event will be just kind of – are you going to be split up again? Because, you know, last year, like you said, you used a little bit of the waterfall, the Kenda waterfall behind the green cabin and the Red Bull Ravine. They were kind of back and forth, or you guys have –
Yeah, and this time because of how we plan, at least as of right now, our plan is to cut them into there pretty quickly, like through that new – trail that we've connected out of the grass track. So I think they'll right after the start, you know, within a couple minutes, they'll be over in that Red Bull Ravine. I think our idea this year is to use more in that zone. So probably go deeper up that, you know, up that creek, up and down that hill, maybe a couple more times. Use that part way up there. There were like Tristan a few years ago was leaping from big boulder to big boulder where a lot of the guys are squeezing between them. He was staying on top of them was pretty insane. So probably deeper up into that region, I think, is where we'll go more. And then,
but every lap still goes back to the enduro cross track.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's probably because that's just the start finish zone where the scoring ends up being all weekend. We've kicked the idea around of even doing everything out from that Red Bull ravine, but it's pretty impossible to do that with 500 amateurs, So, and if you don't want to do one thing there and one thing here, it just becomes a little clunky. So our plan is to use that same start finish area, but that's part of the reason we did the shortcut out of the grass track is we feel like that grass track's kind of a wasted zone. Last year we were only coming back through it. This time we'll be going out of it, but quicker out of it, and then come back through it. And in both cases, we're going to try to use as little of that as possible. We'll do the little electric bike demo area will happen again in that grass track area, and so that leaves us a little less space in the top. But most of these guys don't really want to rip around on a grass track.
Not on a soft tire.
Yeah, it's slightly resting, but none of them rest anywhere anyway. So yeah.
So the area like up behind the shop and the cabins, and then on up to the, I don't know what they call it, the Kendall Waterfall.
Kendall Rock Garden, Waterfall.
Rock Garden.
Yeah.
Is that still going to be in the hot lap?
It won't be in the hot lap. It's not planned to be with our current plans
anyway. In the final.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't be in the final. Probably not for the hot lap on Friday or either like it was last year. But we do plan on utilizing that for the long course. That region will get used a bit more, and maybe some of you guys might remember from years past where we've actually gone up and down that hill, even right. So those hills are nasty.
I've had nightmares about that. The first year we came, we were walking that, and I'm like, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah, that's one of those zones too, where if it gets wet, I mean, I've watched some really good riders not make it up that hill at all.
Yeah, bikes come tumbling down to the creek.
Yeah. I watched Wally Palmer launch his bike up one of the cliffs just for fun once, and it came tumbling all the way back to the bottom.
No, that sounds about right.
Maybe a Stark Varg.
Yeah.
Well, and I know one thing the guys said last year and the year before, once the top guys kind of got settled in, there was no showstopper to hold them up to make passing. It was kind of just cruise down. I know we want a racy thing, so maybe something to get them hung up where we can make some passes.
Yeah, we debate that every year, trying to find that balance. We and TKO is a bit different than I know some of the other hard enduros or like 4-hour marathons on a long course. As it is now on Sunday, the pro guys will end up riding 3-ish hours typically, because even the main event with that loop format tends to be about 45 minutes, and then it's an hour plus usually for the first and second loop. So they do end up racing 3 hours, but kind of and we've used nearly a very similar format from, even though this is year 14, we've used a very similar format. It's a little bit of trying to keep it a good show for the fans, by re-racking them and doing the knockout format and all that stuff. And I know some riders, prefer, guys like Jarvis and a few of the other top guys, even they say, I'd rather just do a long marathons where they're going to probably do better. But, like I said, we're trying to find that balance. We, like I said before too, we try to avoid bottlenecks as much as possible. But we do want to make it a little harder this year. We want that, like I said, we want that second amateur race on Saturday to be a pretty tough one compared to what it was last year. I mean, actually, Josh and I, after we rode it, we had a difference of opinion on how long that would take. Josh thought it'd be an hour and a half. I was like, it's going to be an hour, and it was an hour because those top few amateurs. I mean, Kana, who won last year, Mason,
he made the main event, didn't he?
He darn near made the main event. Mason George, who was second, did make the main event last year out of Saturday. So he was that guy that did that last year. Yep. So those guys are both in the pro class now, and their gap to the next guy was a little bit, but shoot, they finished it in an hour last year. So our goal, like I said, that amateur should be closer to an hour and a half plus for the winner. That's our goal. But then pushing that all the way through to where Sunday morning's a little harder. Sunday race 2 knockouts a little harder, and then the final, trying to find something where, we've had it to where that Red Bull Ravine Hill. I mean, 2 years ago, actually, when we did the FIM one, I mean, the first lap, there was Manny didn't make it, Jarvis didn't make it. I mean, there was a bit of that. I mean, in fact, Billy almost didn't make it while he was in the lead at the very end because it was wetter that year. It was a little more challenging. So we're going to try to find that sweet spot, and sometimes it's just seeing is it going to rain or not, and having plan A and plan B depending on what the weather ends up being.
Well, and like you said, Connor Boy and Mason George are a great example of two guys who should be in Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep.
to bring it down and bring that level, make it a competitive TKO 2 for the amateur championship.
Exactly.
So, last couple things I got on the list: contingency. Pretty good contingency that lines up with all the other US Hard Enduros. So, I think $300 to win an A class. If you're I'm sorry, this is on if you're on a KTM group bike.
Yep. KTM Husky gas. Correct. Yep. I know Sherco at the end ended up putting up a contingency program last year as well, similar. So I need to reach out to those guys and see if they want to do something like that. But yeah, those bikes, the Austrian bikes, they're all eligible for that as well again this year.
All right, cool. And then sponsors, I saw something come out the other day that Kenda's back as the presenting sponsor or a big sponsor. Yeah,
Kenda's been on every year since year one. They're back again for the 14th year. Usely Hydration Pack's been on for quite a few years now. They're back again this year. Fox Racing, which has been on for a few years. MotorX is actually on for the first time this year as one of those kind of top tier sponsors as well. And I kind of pointed out to them, we actually do a rider survey every year, and 90% two strokes, and MotorX was the most popular oil. And so they've gotten involved actually both with the TKO and the US Hard Enduro Championship this year. So cool to have MotorX in this year as a sponsor. And then Suron stepped up. They were a sponsor the last couple of years, but they stepped up. And so the electric bike demo zone, they had a couple hundred riders test ride bikes last year. They were super happy with that. So we're going to try to build that up again this year. Electric Motion had like one bike for demo last year. They, after the fact, were like, oh, that was super cool. We need to bring a few more bikes this year. Let some guys try our bikes as well. Got a few other electric bikes manufacturers who nobody's locked in yet, but a few more we're hoping will lock in and give some people an opportunity to ride a few other brands as well.
Was that Electric Motion? I know the one Spencer Wilton rode last year was like a pre-production or one they hadn't released. If that one's come out? I haven't kept up.
That bike is out now. Yeah. That bike is actually out. So it's kind of a little hybrid kind of a trials-ish style bike, but it has a flat seat and even comes with moto tires on it, So yeah, that bike is available now. So, and
they've got a clutch, right?
Correct. They've got a clutch. They actually have a trials bike that has a gearbox in it now too.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's a 4-speed. I actually just talked to Jeff Aaron about it a little bit. He was saying how it's got a clutch and a gearbox now. And he says it makes it even more like a true trials bike now. So yeah.
Did he leave Gas and go to eMotion?
He's working, for Mark Berg with Central Power Sports Distribution, who's the U.S. importer. So he's actually helping him with some of the other brands. They do Riehu as well, and SWM motorcycles and Electric Motion. So yeah, he's Jeff actually is working for CPD now, helping with all of those projects. But of course, with his roots and trials, he's pretty deep on the Electric Motion part of it as well.
That's cool. I hadn't heard anything about him on the gas side, so I didn't know if he'd gone. So, all right, before we get off TKO, I've got one other topic afterwards. Sean, you got anything else you want to say or talk about or preach to people? How many we got signed up right now?
We were at 360-ish when I looked at it yesterday. I looked back. I kind of freaked out a little bit. Like, gosh, over the last month, I thought it seems like we're a little behind. But then when I look back, we ended up getting 100 plus in the last couple weeks. So we're pretty much on pace. I think we'll fill the full 500 again, like we've done the last few years before we get to that last week. So I've been seeing 5-10 entries a day. It seems like these last few days. So it seems like there's a little buzz going. I think everybody's kind of getting amped up now that we're getting closer. So
I signed up yesterday.
I haven't signed up yet.
I finally pulled the trigger. I was hoping a free entry would just appear or something. Make that list. You never know. It's like that RV spot.
Made a few notes, just double checking on there.
Last year you had the entire you done the outline, and we just talked about what you wanted to talk about. It was nice.
Yeah, like I said, Jarvis, it looks like he's coming. Unfortunately, Billy Bolt's still injured. I mentioned Johnny Walker. We're kind of hoping maybe he surprises us and comes in here at the end. But regardless, I think we'll have a good group of pros to battle it out, and obviously a good group of amateurs. And I think the electric bike thing's going to be a little cooler this year with Spencer and Wally and a couple other guys I've heard of doing it. I think you might have 3-4 good guys, competing for that electric bike win as well. So it'd be kind of cool.
I was hopeful that Billy might come and do some announcing like he's been doing at Romaniacs and some of the other events.
Yeah, and I know that actually the Red Bull guys were hopeful that he'd even come race. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think that, for him, it's better for him to wait till he's truly 100%. And, he's got a super enduro championship that'll start in November. So I think he's probably smarter to wait till then, but we'll see. Maybe he'll surprise us.
That'd be cool.
I know he seems to like coming over and hanging out. So we'll never know, I guess, until the very end if he might just show up and come over and have some fun.
Well, I'd heard he wanted to come do the Nashville thing, but then I saw some pictures and he was in a wrist brace. So I don't know if he's had a wrist surgery.
I saw that too. I was wondering if he had like another injury now.
Yeah,
or maybe he got something else fixed while you knew his knee was already getting, healing.
I mean, it makes sense. So, all right, last topic if we're done with TKO, which, again, it's August 22nd through the 24th or 25th. Sound right?
It's the 22nd will be the Thursday night for Nashville. 23rd, 24th, 25th for the actual TTC happenings.
Okay. All right. So any silly season news you've heard of? I've got a couple little things I've heard of. The biggest rumor, and I think it's going around the motocross world, is KTM Husky Gas is downsizing, that some of the 250 guys might be shuffled around and riding under multiple colored bikes under one truck.
Haven't heard anything definite on that. I mean, I've heard rumors like you guys have heard. Definitely heard as I think most people know, interest rates and economy and all that's not spectacular. Bike sales are not as good as they were a couple of years ago. So I think a lot of the manufacturers are tightening up, and unfortunately in the off-road space anyway, we're pretty dependent on that KTM group. They're the biggest supporter of the off-road, and Sherco is obviously a big supporter, and Riehu and a few others are in there. But really, if you look at the bulk of the bikes are coming from Austria. And like I said before, our event anyway, it's 90% two-stroke off-road bikes. But yeah, I nothing that I've heard definite, I've heard of some riders being re-signed already. I haven't heard of anybody, other than, I know KTM on the rally side, didn't renew Toby Price, who's, multi-time winner and all that stuff. So I think that's a little indication of them tightening things up a little bit on that program anyway. Haven't really heard though on, there's really two guys on Husky, one each on, in the hard enduro space anyway, on KTM and gas. So not quite sure.
It seems like they're going that direction, that there's only going to be one on each of the brands next year is what I've kind of heard.
Yeah. So I haven't heard anything definite on any of that, but yeah, it's tough for the manufacturers. I mean, we just kind of hope that, can make it to where there's, still for a handful of those pro guys, top guys anyway, can still make it a job, a career out of it. I know it's always been tight for the off-road guys. There is only a handful that can do that, unfortunately. I know we actually, for the TKO anyway, there's a $12,000 purse. $5,000 goes to the winner. There's another $10,000 actually for the Thursday night event. So those riders can actually do pretty well. Even when we did last year, we actually had a separate purse for the straight rhythm we did at the Trials Training Center when we did it on Saturday night. So last year our purse was actually $17,000. So this year combined it's 22, counting the Thursday night. So guy can make, those top riders can make a pretty decent chunk of money. I mean, it's super cool to me to see like Tough Like Roar and a few of these others where they have, a big legit purse, bigger than probably bigger than any other off-road racing that I'm aware of. Dirt bike racing.
I've heard it's the biggest.
Yeah. So that's super cool that they're able to pull that off. And one of the things that's, I know has been debated a little bit as on the FIM Hard Enduro Championship, Erzberg and a few of those others, there's not a purse. So I think it's a little harder for some of those guys chasing it as a private team, or rider to make it viable for them because they count on a team and sponsors to pay for everything. So, I know I've heard a little bit of discussion about that, but like I said, our event actually, we've had a pretty solid purse. We do as much as we can on it. And we've actually increased a little bit over the last couple of years as well to try to make it where those guys can make a little bit of money.
No, that's awesome.
The main thing I took out of that is Rob Moan has the biggest.
That club puts everything back into it. They're not for profit, so they can do that. It's turned into their biggest event. So it is the last round of the US Hard Enduro series. So
yep.
I think it's the last for East.
It's the last East and the last of the Premier. I don't believe it counts as a West round, is my understanding though. So,
Okay.
but it is the last of the Premier series as well, and the last of the East. And there was some talk about double points was actually thrown out there, but that's not the case. Actually, just to clarify, in case anybody heard that, it is regular points. There's championships on the line for all the amateur classes, which will be awarded Saturday night. One of the things we do, a little different than some of the other events, is there's only 30 riders that go through, and we count that the racing's complete for the amateurs on Saturday. Those 30 riders, it's like bonus time. I know it can cause a little drama if one guy beats a guy who on Sunday he didn't beat on Saturday, but partly because it's an AMA Grand Championship, we hand out those awards Saturday night. Like I said, it's kind of bonus time, and really it's, for those top 10 guys especially, I think it's for them to see where they stack up, against the pro riders. Quite a few of the vet guys and all that, though. Also, we've seen it make it into that last year. I know you guys' buddy Travis Wilson legitimately made it in last year. So there's usually a handful of vet guys and even a B rider or two that makes it in. So it's pretty cool to see that.
Well, very good. Well, and then I guess, like I said, award Saturday night, we had the Moose barbecue. I don't know if that'll be going on again.
Yeah, Moose is actually talking about like companies tightening up. Unfortunately, Moose is not back after being there for many years. And with that, we won't have the little Moose barbecue on that night, but we will be doing the awards in that same zone. We actually talked about getting some of the food vendors up there because it's a popular place to hang out while everybody's waiting for the awards. So I think a food vendor is going to do really, really well up there on Saturday night for sure. So, but yeah, the cool thing is we'll have results from the day that we'll hand out Saturday night. AMA Grand Championship for the winners of each of those classes that are championship classes, and then there'll be championships on the line for the US Hard Enduro Championship as well. So I know I talked to Matt, and they're planning on handing out those awards that evening as well. Then on Saturday, Sunday morning, it basically, at that point it's all pro. There'll be a pro champion, awarded. There'll also be that electric bike champion awarded from the Sunday morning race. So there'll be those two championships handed out on Sunday afternoon. But otherwise, then everybody can hit the road pretty quickly because we've kind of seen in the past a lot of those guys hang out. They're like literally up there till the main event, and then they're on the highway if they got a bit of drive ahead of them.
All right. Well, last thing. So there's always one special person who's announcing and handing out all those awards and doing all that talking. So I heard he might be back. Is it true, Sean?
Who is that? Who did you hear about?
He's playing dumb. He knows who it is. I heard the one and only Eric Kudla will be back at TKO to do some
Eric
talking.
Kudla is planning to be there as the announcer for the event. He worked for eScore, so he did the scoring. He worked for the scoring company last year. Yep. Which put him in the booth for announcing. He reached out because of rolling into the US Championship. We're switching to be consistent with the rest of the series. We're using the same scoring system that they use for the rest of the series. So therefore, he reached out. So yeah, you'll have the sweet sound of Eric Kudla all weekend.
It's good. It's something to wake up to. Travis Wilson says the first thing he hears in the morning is my voice. So we can all hear Eric Kudla's voice first thing.
Yeah.
So all right, Sean. Well, Will, you got anything else? Sean, you got anything else?
Nothing from me. How about you, Will?
All I know is I turned 45 in November. So you guys got rid of the 45 class. So
we're just being consistent with the US Hard Enduro Championship. You can't blame me on that one.
I know.
I noticed that too. I was looking at where people finished last year. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened to that class? And I was like, oh.
Yeah. So I think 40 plus is going to be a pretty heated category this year. I mean, you got Travis in there. He won 45 last year. I won 40. Drew's dropping down from pro. I mean, Chance Baker, and who else? Who am I missing, Drew? Russell Loudermilk. He may be in his 60s now, but he might be racing. He's fast.
It worked out so well for you and Travis last year. You both were just like number one. You were like, I wasn't even expecting anything. And so then, is it right there?
I walked by, and I had a beer, so I'm on the stage with my beer behind the award. Like, it was funny.
Well, it'll be even more if you win it this year now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll have 2 beers this year.
The whole time we were riding today, he's just going, I want a wet TKO. I'm so tired of this dry stuff. And now that you're making it a little harder, I mean, that'll obviously help.
I'm actually kind of wishing for it, too, because that makes it harder with no work on our part,
Yeah. Oh, it's
and the crazy thing is, even last year we got crazy rain on Tuesday, I believe, and we went to one of those little side hills near the Uphill Creek area that was a new hill last year. I flat out could not make it on any bike. I tried it on 3 different bikes. I flat out could not make it, and I'm not up to you guys' level, but I was like, it was ice. I came back there 2 days later, rode right up it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what, like, we rode some stuff we've been riding, and every log, you can't put your front wheel on it if it's on any kind of incline or you're going down. And then you use so much more energy. And like you said, it could take that hour-long race to a 2-hour-long race, no problem.
Yeah. So, and even, like I said, last year, Saturday, the weekend before, just one weekend before, was crazy rain last year. I mean, one of those gnarly dumping, and then Tuesday we got it again, and then it didn't rain once again all the rest of the week. And that's kind of what we had the last several years. But as we know, it's like Russian roulette. I mean, it's just which chamber is it in when it comes up on that Saturday and Sunday.
The pattern we're in right now, though, it just feels like it's going to be wet. It's just we are getting so much Gulf moisture coming up, and oh my God, the humidity level right now is not that hot. What was it today? 80?
Maybe.
Dude, it was 1,000% humidity. It's brutal.
My son just walked out into the garage last night. We were going to dinner for a birthday, and his glasses just immediately fogged up. And he was just like, "Yep, it's."
I'll tell you what, it's brutal for us prepping course out there in the middle of the woods, man. It's gnarly, and
you got to take a week or 2 to get used to it.
Yeah, I ride a lot, and both my moto and my mountain bike. I mean, I'm pretty solid programmed. Last year I had a broken arm leading in, and it was barely functioning. So last year I was suffering. This year I'm hoping I can stay healthy for another few more weeks and have a lot more fun out there laying out course.
Well, I think one of my favorite things is just hearing people talk about how humid it is and how miserable they are. And, for us, luckily we're accustomed to it, but just the crowd that comes with the FIM.
Oh yeah. I remember Johnny Walker the first year he was just blown away. And Billy, even when Billy won, what was it? 3 years ago he won. Yep. He was just laying out on his back with his jersey off right after the race, and he was smoked, and he won, So yeah, I think it's tough, especially for those people who don't live in it.
Yeah, well, and Will says it every year. It's the best. This is usually like the most exciting time because we usually get some guys coming down, hanging out, and then it's just such a big fun weekend to see everyone. And it's kind of like I don't want to say the end of the hard enduro season, but it's usually caps it off pretty well. Yeah. So good to see everyone for sure.
Yep. Yeah, we appreciate you guys racing it for so many years and giving us a chance to talk about it and get everybody amped up, and hopefully we fill up that another 100-ish riders that are or slots that are open for riders. And like I said, if you want to sign up, you probably better sign up here pretty quick because you never know. Like you might be locked out that last 2 weeks.
Well, golly, Tough Like Roar, the Team Fuego and that whole crowd. I mean, they were up at Stairway to Heaven or the wrong side of heaven. They had music playing. They were chanting. I think I did a story about it, and I'm just like, they were having their best life. And so there's probably another 50 entries, and then they'll just party all weekend. So I think they put them way over in the back lot over by the spring. That whole thing. They had like a whole zone over there last year. Yeah. So, but
I look forward to that. I mean, it's so fun to see everybody come and challenge themselves. And like I said, it's not the hardest hard enduro, but it's hard. And it's like our goal is to have a racy.
If it rains, it will be.
And our goal is to have a racy hard enduro as well. We really want to see some guys battle, and it's honestly a better race when it is hard than when it's easy because they tend to, like you said last year, there was nothing that differentiated it. Tristan was on another level these last couple of years though. So, in that condition, he's got it. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll see what the weather delivers to us, and hopefully we have another one of those really good ones.
Well, that's what when in years past when Charlie and Catherine and Charlie laid out the Saturday course, we had it's like the last rainy TKO I can remember, and we were just going up one of the Jeep Road hills, and there was like 20 of us. You couldn't go. It was just ice, not Hawaiian ice, but it was slick. Close. So yeah. So,
I watched Corey Griffunder not make a hill that looked like you could walk up no problem a few years ago too. It's like literally could not move his motorcycle. He was there for 30 minutes, I think.
Oh man! All right, guys. Well, Sean, thanks for your time.
Yep.
Will, I appreciate
Thank you guys.
it. We'll be in touch. Look forward to seeing you in a couple
weeks.
Thanks
a lot, Sean.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you.